Welcome to the Update Loop, bringing you the latest news from around the world. Welcome to the Update Loop, bringing you the latest news from around the world. On July 28, 2025, the Panama Canal, one of the world's most vital shipping arteries, came to a sudden halt. A catastrophic incident involving the MV Colossus, a massive new container vessel, forced a complete shutdown. For the first time in decades, the U.S. invoked treaty rights to assist Panama, dispatching naval engineers and salvage experts to contain the disaster and assess the canal's integrity. The world watched as dozens of ships, from oil tankers to container carriers, sat motionless at both entrances, a floating city of stranded commerce. The shutdown was more than a logistical nightmare. It was a geopolitical event, raising urgent questions about sovereignty, international cooperation, and the security of global trade. The Panamanian government, overwhelmed, formally requested U.S. assistance under the Neutrality Treaty, triggering a swift response from Washington. The MV Colossus incident was a worst-case scenario, a technological failure compounded by human error threatening the very infrastructure of the canal. The world was reminded of the fragility of its supply chains, all dependent on this single 50-mile stretch of water. As hours turned to days, the crisis forced nations and industries to confront their over-reliance on just-in-time delivery and the vulnerabilities of a concentrated shipping network. The race unfolding in Panama was more than a salvage operation. It was a desperate effort to restart the heartbeat of global commerce. Captains and crews could do little but wait as the world's economy hung in the balance. The canal's silence echoed across the globe, a stark warning of how quickly the flow of trade can stop. The Panama Canal stands as a monument to human ambition and ingenuity. Its story began with a failed French attempt, defeated by disease and engineering challenges, before the U.S. took over in 1904. Under President Theodore Roosevelt, the U.S. transformed the project, eradicating disease and switching to a lock-based design. Tens of thousands of workers from around the world toiled for a decade, carving the canal through jungle and rock. When the SS Ancon made the first official transit in 1914, global trade was forever changed. The canal slashed shipping distances, boosted international commerce, and projected American influence worldwide. For over a century, its smooth operation has been so reliable that the world nearly forgot how much it depended on this singular path. The MV Colossus embodied the shipping industry's drive for ever larger vessels. On July 27, 2025, during its third transit, disaster struck in the canal's narrowest section, the Culebra Cut. A sudden steering failure sent the ship veering into the canal bank. Backup systems failed, and the hull broke in two. The forward section, loaded with containers, wedged across the channel, while the aft spilled oil into Gatun Lake. Miraculously, the crew was evacuated, but the canal was now completely blocked. Never before had a vessel of this size suffered such a catastrophic collapse within the waterway. The scale of the wreckage, two massive hull sections and a debris field of containers, posed an unprecedented salvage challenge. This was no minor blockage. It was a crisis demanding international expertise and heavy-duty equipment. The world's most sophisticated maritime shortcut had been severed by one of its largest users. The incident exposed the risks of pushing technology to its limits without adequate safeguards. Clearing the channel would require a coordinated, long-term effort unlike anything seen before. The Panama Canal is a linchpin of the global economy, handling over 3% of world maritime trade. Its closure stranded billions in goods, threatening manufacturing, spoiling perishables, and driving up energy prices. For American farmers and Asian manufacturers, the canal is the fastest route to key markets. Rerouting ships around Cape Horn adds weeks and millions in extra costs, turning delays into financial disasters for just-in-time supply chains. The canal's strategic value is immense. It's central to U.S. naval strategy and a vital link in China's Belt and Road Initiative. The shutdown forced shipping companies to choose between waiting in a growing queue or taking costly detours. The ripple effects were immediate. Fuel costs soared, labor expenses rose, and global supply chains buckled. The canal's closure was a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities in global trade. For Panama, the canal is a major source of revenue and national pride. For the world, it's a critical choke point, one whose sudden silence sent shockwaves through every continent. The crisis brought strategic calculations to the forefront for global powers. The world was forced to reckon with its dependence on a single, fragile passage. The crisis reignited debates over canal sovereignty and U.S. involvement. For decades, the U.S. controlled the canal, fueling Panamanian nationalism and leading to the Torrijos-Carter treaties, which transferred control to Panama in 1999. Yet, the neutrality treaty still allows U.S. intervention to keep the canal open, a clause invoked during the Colossus disaster. Environmental concerns also surged. The canal's operation depends on Gatun Lake's fresh water, now threatened by drought and pollution from the wreck. The Colossus spill endangered the fragile ecosystem, prompting calls for transparency and ecological protection in the cleanup. The disaster underscored that the canal is not just an engineering marvel, but a delicate balance of politics, commerce, and nature. The canal's closure sent shockwaves through global markets. Oil and gas prices surged, shipping stocks plummeted, and rail and trucking companies scrambled to fill the gap. Governments convened emergency meetings, bracing for supply chain chaos. Logistics managers worked around the clock to reroute shipments, while companies with perishable goods faced devastating losses. Major retailers activated contingency plans, shifting to air freight for high-value items. The crisis exposed the brittleness of just-in-time inventory systems. Diplomatically, the U.S. presence in the canal zone was sensitive, especially with China offering its own salvage expertise. Panama had to balance sovereignty with the urgent need for foreign help. The world watched as economic and geopolitical tensions played out in real time. The Colossus crisis sparked a wave of innovation in maritime operations. Salvage teams, led by the U.S. Navy, pioneered AI-guided underwater cutting tools to dismantle the wreck quickly and safely. The shutdown forced companies to rethink supply chains, investing in AI-driven platforms for real-time monitoring and alternative routing. Multi-nodal shipping plans emerged, diversifying cargo routes to avoid over-reliance on any single passage. The Panama Canal Authority launched a modernization initiative, including a next-gen vessel traffic system and digital twins for predictive safety. Shipbuilders accelerated work on modular, stress-tolerant hull designs and autonomous navigation technology. The crisis shifted the industry's focus from pure efficiency to resilience and safety. Out of disaster, the maritime world took a leap forward in technology and risk management. After 58 days, the canal was finally cleared, thanks to a global salvage effort. The reopening was marked by a modest ceremony, but the economic scars ran deep. Insured losses topped $5 billion, with total global impact exceeding $20 billion. The incident shattered the perception of the canal's infallibility, forcing a re-evaluation of risk. New safety measures followed: temporary size restrictions, mandatory inspections, and AI-driven vessel monitoring for large ships. These protocols, though costly, were essential to restore confidence. The crisis also sparked serious talks about alternative trade routes, including rail corridors across Central America and Mexico. The world realized the danger of relying on a handful of maritime choke points. The canal's recovery was about more than reopening. It was about rebuilding trust and resilience in global trade. The lessons learned would shape the future of shipping for years to come. 2. The 2025 Panama Canal shutdown was a wake-up call for the global economy. The Colossus disaster exposed the risks of prioritizing efficiency over resilience in supply chains. The crisis showcased both the power of international cooperation and the dangers of over-concentration in trade networks. Innovations in technology and safety protocols emerged, but the underlying vulnerabilities remain. Panama rose to the challenge, but the world must now balance efficiency with robust risk management. As the canal returns to normal, the question lingers: have we truly learned the lesson, or are we simply waiting for the next crisis? The future of global trade depends on our answer.